Good evening, everyone. Welcome to day 3. In this video, we're going to be talking about imports and exports in React. Before we start, I'm just going to refresh our mind on what we did yesterday. Yesterday, we spoke about components, how to create functional components, and how to render them in the DOM. So, let me just take you through what I have here in my code, because it's different from what we had yesterday. All I did was add a new component file called component2.jsx. And inside this component2.jsx, I have three functions: component2, myfunc, and myfunc2. And right here, I've exported them, but I'm going to show you how this works. So I think this is a good place to start. Let's start from there. In JavaScript, this concept of import and export in JavaScript is called modularization. And what that means is that it allows you to break down your code into different chunks to make it easier to work with. So instead of writing, imagine you have a production software or website where there might be hundreds to thousands of functions in the whole project. It will not make sense to have all your functions or all your code inside one file. So this modularization concept allows you to break down your code based on what it does into different files. So in this case, we have three different functions. And these three functions are needed in another file. That's a file outside of component2.jsx. So what we can do is we can export those. We can export the functions. Most times you will have a default export, which is the main thing that is needed out of that file. And after that default export, you now have other named or subsidiary exports from that file. Things are not the main functions, but are also very useful, might be needed in other files. So in this case, that's exactly what I did. I exported default component2, and I exported my function and my function2. So when you're exporting the default, you export it this way. Then when you're exporting other functions, or it might be a function, a class, or just a constant, you export it like this. You cannot export two defaults from a file. So for instance, I cannot write export default this again. It won't work because it's only one. Cannot have multiple default exports as seen in the error. So that's going to be wrong. So this is how you export more than one thing from a file. It might be a constant, an object, a class, whatever it might be. And also the imports might be quite different from what we're used to. Let's take this component, so this line 3 as an example. We're importing component2 from this string. This string is the location of where component2 is. What this means is that / means from where we are. So in this case, or in this example, we are inside a folder called source. So inside source there are two things, or rather inside source there are a couple of files and a folder called component. So what this line is saying, that is line 3, is saying that from where we are, which is signified by the / from where we are, and right now we're inside the app.js, enter the components file, components folder. So that means from app.js, which is in the same place, which is inside the same source folder, what we now want to do is that we want to enter components folder. The inside components folder, you will now see component2. So it's telling, what that import statement is basically telling is that import something called component2 from components/component2, which is the actual file we're looking for. So the second import statement is almost something like that. It's saying import my function and my function2. Mind you, these are named components or named imports, which means that whatever is written here must be exactly what is here. If I misspell this, maybe add something, it won't work. You can see an error, my function is not defined. So it must be exactly the same. If we come here and we write something else, let's put a W there, it will not work. Like this stuff, this W my function is not the same thing as my function. They're two different things. So you have to be careful with your spelling. They have to be exactly the same. This second one, not this first one, that's line 3, not so much. But by convention, you should keep your import names and your export names exactly the same to avoid confusion. So we can now use those functions as normal components since they are actually components. So if we uncomment this, we'll have my func, and don't forget my func, put this side by side. Don't forget that my func just has an h1 called my func, and my func2 just has an h2, which is my func2. So if we go to our code, we can see my func and my func2. So meaning that everything is going to plan. If my explanation is not sufficient or you want more information, I would put a link in the description of the video where you could watch somebody else's video on modularization and modules, HTML modules. Sorry, JavaScript modules, especially how when it comes to React. So with that being said, before day 1, I was supposed to make a video giving a disclaimer about my videos. By no means am I a professional. I'm someone that is learning React too. Although there are some concepts I really understand, and you know that like for you to say you really understand something, you have to be able to teach it. So that is the whole concept of this 100 days of React. For me to truly understand the technology and carry people along, people that might want to learn, people that share the same passions as I do. So this set of videos are they're not professionally made videos, or I'm not here to promise you that you get a job after going through the 100 days. But all I can promise you is that you should be better like after the end of the 100 days than when you started. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video and stay tuned for day 4.